Spotlight is proudly sponsored by HEC Media.
Today on a special edition of Spotlight, the premiere of a new documentary by HEC Films.
I believe that if RAC had a theme song, the OJ's Give the People What They Want would be our theme song.
St. Louis's Regional Arts Commission is celebrating 4 decades of helping make our city one of the greatest arts towns in America.
Art can be one of those things that really pushes people to come here and visit.
When you go to a new city, what is it that you do? You want to see the spaces that are unique.
The culture of St. Louis is the foundation of what makes the city cool.
A St. Louis without RAC would be a little darker.
Join us as HEC Films looks back at all RAC has accomplished and what's next for this remarkable St. Louis institution on this special edition of the multiple Emmy Award-winning Spotlight.
I'm quoting a friend who said, when you think of St. Louis, what's the first thing you think of? It's the Arch. And the Arch is a giant public art project. So that's how important arts is to St. Louis.
Humans were created to be creative. The Regional Arts Commission wants to make sure that all St. Louisans have a full creative life.
Art does cost money, and it especially costs a lot more money when you're trying to fund your own original idea.
When RAC started 40 years ago, things started to grow and improve for the arts.
Not anymore!
A local agency like the Regional Arts Commission that is committed to supporting local art, that is committed to freedom of speech is very, very important. And RAC gives us the means to support that work.
Thank God for RAC.
The Regional Arts Commission is the largest public funder of the arts in St. Louis. We invest in making St. Louis fun.
We set it up and it's been working now for 40 years. People are stunned by what is offered here in St. Louis. For a community of just under 3 million people, we have a very robust offering in St. Louis.
We wanted to increase tourism. We wanted to have outstanding, nationally acclaimed cultural institutions. And so we thought the best way to do that was through the imposition of a hotel-motel tax.
In the early 80s, cities all over the country were wanting to find ways to support the arts beyond just private funding or funding from patrons. And they said tax dollars would be a great and consistent way for funding.
We had to have a vote both in the city of St. Louis and in the county of St. Louis, and it had to pass in both jurisdictions.
And so the people of St. Louis voted to have RAC receive 4/15 of the hotel-motel sales tax to invest in the arts.
It has gone from this sort of well-kept but mighty secret to this enormous, impactful entity in the region. It was always impactful, but I think now more people know and realize our impact.
We went in the early years from funding about 80, 85 groups to funding at least 200. And then we branched out. We realized that individual artists were very important, so we did individual artist grants.
At the time when that was first done, not many places were doing such grants throughout the country, and RAC was really at the forefront of that. And it's become just a part of our DNA.
RAC has really made it possible so that you can put the idea of chasing money aside and focus on what artistic voice or what creative passion you want to realize.
What RAC does is support artists like myself who show art in a very different way, who tell stories that are unique. It is not easy to have a career as an artist, and an organization like RAC could mean life or death of an artist.
When the world is volatile, that's when art shows up. That's when artists show up, because it's not just dollars. We need voices. And in RAC, they're not specific about, hey, we need you to do this or do that. They just ask you how can they help you do what it is that you do, and they allow us to share our voice any way we want.
Every American citizen must have an equal right to vote.
RAC has supported the Black Rep forever. It's been great, it's been collaborative. Their support for the most part has supported operations and not just projects. Those kinds of funds allow us to use them where we need them in terms of administrative costs and overhead. Without support from the Regional Arts Commission, our ticket prices would probably be double what they are.
Lammeyer is free to the public 362 days a year, and that's not incidental. That's actually a really important part of the experience. Free public space is essential for thriving communities, and with support like RAC's, it does help us not only to keep the park itself free, but to deliver programs that are extremely low cost or in many cases free of charge.
It was not very long ago that we were one of the smallest organizations that RAC funded, and now we are among the largest, and that has been an incredible journey. The dependability of those funds from year to year for a small nonprofit arts organization is worth its weight in gold, honestly.
RAC and the St. Louis Symphony Orchestra go back 40 years to basically the inception of the Regional Arts Commission. RAC has helped the symphony fund the expansion of community programs, and in some very important ways, RAC has democratized access to the arts. RAC, in its role over 40 years, has really connected the community of smaller arts organizations that are highly impactful, who without RAC would not have been able to grow as arts organizations and truly impact their communities.
I'm Emily Coring. I'm the Executive Director of Bread and Roses Missouri, and we amplify and elevate the voices of working people through the arts. Bread and Roses has been funded for many years now by the Regional Arts Commission, and we're in the organizational support category, and it's been critical to our success over the past decade to grow and continue to thrive.
Certainly in the beginning, we would not have existed without RAC, and the steady support has allowed us to grow and respond to what's going on in the world and what we're also hearing from the folks that we help. RAC has always been the place where a new organization could go to get their first grant, and that helped them as they went around to the rest of the community to see if they could get funding elsewhere.
I think that in a lot of ways, for a lot of people and sometimes for other funders, support from RAC is a kind of good housekeeping seal.
Finally, I can see all that I hope, all that I dream.
I was afforded the funds to be able to do a 30-day music residency in Los Angeles with the intention of connecting St. Louis recording industry with Los Angeles recording industry, and then, bring those experiences and connections back into St. Louis.
The Regional Arts Commission is impactful beyond giving out money. There's a lot of intentionality with programming to assist the capacity of individual artists.
The Regional Arts Commission has done a wonderful job with creating that support system for the artists. There are people in the organizations who come to my show who take an interest in me as an artist, not just as an entity that sends funding, but they help with finding locations, they help in building resources and connecting us to each other. And that is so important. That goes even beyond just the funding part of it.
One of RAC's legacy programs is the Community Arts Training Institute, also known as the CAT Institute.
We have 16 CAT fellows who participate in an 8-month-long program to learn how to engage the community in problem solving for specific issues that are happening.
Red Roses, Missouri was born from a lab project that was created in the Community Arts Training Institute at RAC. Being part of the Community Arts Training Institute changed my life in the course of my career because I thought about how to build arts programs in a whole new way. It's not just art for art's sake. It's art that can build community and create vibrant communities. RAC is a huge force in St. Louis for change in that way.
We have about 350 people that have gone through the CAT Institute, and it's really people that believe that they can make a change in the community.
I applied for it and I got into it, and that completely changed the direction where my art went. It taught me the importance of community. It taught me the importance of being a voice for my community. It changed the way I create art.
In RAC's first 35 years, our income through hotel motel tax grew every year about 2 to 6%. COVID hit, changed everything. We were right at about $6.7 million. That dropped to just under $3 million.
We're off to an amazing start.
The first thing we did was we partnered with 16 other organizations to raise money for working artists. And we raised over $350,000 through the Artist Relief Fund, and we distributed those funds in 4 weeks.
When I went through the COVID crisis, which was definitely the most challenging time of my artistic career, that, RAC was really there for me in providing support grants that helped me, pay my bills and get food on my plate.
They never threw in the towel. They never gave up on all of the grantees that were truly depending on those funds. They kept in communication with us. We all felt as if they really were standing behind us during that difficult time.
We really put the needs of artists and arts organizations first, and I think that helped to accelerate our recovery and ensure that the sector as a whole would survive the devastating situation. A great example of the best of RAC creating together, fostering change, and welcoming visitors is the St. Louis Mural Project. The St. Louis Mural Project was funded as part of ARPA for the Arts, and so we chose to invest a portion of our ARPA dollars into the St. Louis Mural Project. And that allowed us to commission 2 murals in every ward. And so each mural could tell the story of the history of that ward, but also the future vision for the ward.
Just the addition of color to the street makes a huge difference, and it gives people a reason to drive around.
Part of my artistic mindset is to bring people joy. And to see that happening with people, you just see their faces as they drive by, they're like, because they're just kind of a little in awe of it.
Projects like this are important to St. Louis because it shows that we're not afraid of change. It's like we're not afraid of permanence. People from out of town, they come in and they get to see who's here. They get to see what are our flavors, what are our styles, what's important.
Anytime that you bring art into the people's lives, you open that little gate to where people use their imagination and are able to see things in a different perspective.
I think for RAC, what creating together means is that people have an opportunity to express themselves, to bring their creative genius to the table. And whether it's through our muralists who are painting murals on buildings for people to enjoy and visit, or dancers who are on stage expressing their emotion and their ideas through their movement and their body, this is an opportunity for people to experience art and joy with others.
Right in that open spot.
Perfect.
welcoming visitors to St. Louis is really important to growing our economy. And for the last 40 years, RAC has made sure that there's something fun to do and something interesting for people who come to St. Louis.
When there is a robust arts organization or community in a city, how does that manifest itself in terms of economic benefit? Well, it's visitors come into town. When there are big concerts in St. Louis, when there are big shows that are taking place, the city hotels fill up, not just for sports and not just for conventions, but for arts programming as well.
RAC, in partnership with other institutions such as Greater St. Louis and Explore St. Louis, is really working toward establishing that awareness that St. Louis is one of the most thriving cultural destinations in our country.
I think often cultural tourism is sort of under-recognized or underappreciated for the economic benefits that it brings, but it is really, really substantial.
Here at 21C Museum Hotel St. Louis, we believe that art drives commerce, and I believe the same thing for the region of St. Louis. The art in our region, the culture that is in our region, drives people to come to St. Louis. It attracts people, it attracts dollars.
Art is great for tourism. I think art and tourism go hand in hand. When you go to a new city, what is it that you do? You want to see the spaces that are unique.
Any arts group is going to bring people out. They're going to go to dinner before they go. They got to buy gas to get there. They're going to maybe stay at a hotel. They come from out of town. It's huge for business.
The economic impact of the arts is significant. $868 million in economic activity is what we measured in 2022 through our Arts and Economic Prosperity Study. 12,000 jobs annually. So your neighbor down the street probably works in the arts. And 8.1 million people come to St. Louis for our arts and culture experience. That's more than all professional and collegiate sports combined because the arts happen year-round.
From my view, as one who will travel for art of all different types, I would say that when you have stellar art, when you have things that people want to see, we will travel to see it.
St. Louis is a great arts town for tourism. There's so many cool things to come see. We've got the St. Louis Art Museum, which is free, and we've got the Pulitzer and the Contemporary Art Museum, and then we've got the Muni.
On a given weekend, you'll find very many festivals, whether it's the Artica Festival downtown on the Landing, which is kind of an underground arts festival, to the Festival of Nations in Tower Grove Park, and that all contributes to community. Those visitors may stumble upon something that they didn't expect, but they're going to leave really happy, and that will bring them back to St. Louis.
What we know is when the people who live in St. Louis engage in the arts, they spend about $31 per occurrence. But when people come from out of town, they're spending $53 per occurrence. So we love having people visit St. Louis, not just for the economics, but also for the reputation build.
There's no doubt about it. RAC made the arts in St. Louis succeed to the level of an A city.
When you look at the number of arts organizations and arts offerings, there are over 600 arts and culture nonprofits in this region alone. So hands down, per capita, St. Louis has more arts than cities twice our size. St. Louis is an arts town.
We have proof that other cities have used the arts to bring back their downtown and thrive greatly. If we claim to care about our city, we can't exclude art. It has to be a part of the vitality of our city and our downtown. It must.
I don't see the Renaissance downtown St. Louis or in any community without a vital, vibrant arts community and an arts sector. You need to have something like that that attracts people, that provides quality of life, that attracts businesses and jobs and economic development and strengthens schools. All of those things are important to community, and without the arts, it would be much harder to achieve.
This renaissance that is about to explode in St. Louis is very much intertwined with RAC's efforts over the last 10, 20, 30 years.
Well, art has to play a part of it. I don't think there'll be a Renaissance without the artists. You know, it's always the artists who move into a neighborhood first and help revitalize it. It's always the artists who are there on the ground level in the grassroots who are helping to organize and helping to make something better. And without them, it's not going to happen.
The reason that there are so many artists who move from other parts of the country to St. Louis is because of organizations like the Regional Arts Commission, who are funding and nurturing the arts in our community.
I feel like arts is the foundation of culture, and the culture of St. Louis is the foundation of what makes the city cool.
I think that the arts can play a pivotal role in growing how people think, feel, and talk about St. Louis. People want to live in a community that is safe, that's beautiful, and that's fun. And the arts can do all of those things. Fostering change is at the heart of what RAC does, whether it's creating environments for people to get together and have conversations that can pull them together, but also really advocating for what the community needs.
The arts bring people together, and they open up discussions that may not have occurred previously, and they promote understanding of each other.
RAC historically, I think as an organization, has been a really good listener. We listen to what the community needs and we respond. Our being good listeners helps us to create the environment for change to happen.
Art is not only taking a brush, loading it up with paint and going on the canvas. It's about a way of thinking. It's about a way that we as humans bond with each other. When we tell these stories, we evoke empathy in the other person, and that causes change in society.
Schools understand the value the arts have and what it brings to student learning. We're not trying to teach students to be artists. We're trying to teach students to be creative thinkers, innovative, and have a strong work skill set. And so the arts are an important part of that.
Whenever funding becomes sparse, arts are usually the first to go, sadly. And I think that the education piece of Regional Arts Commission coming forward to the greater community and saying it is not an afterthought, it is crucial to our well-being as humans, and it absolutely is needed in order to progress in any community.
100! The Regional Arts Commission helps to be a powerhouse behind people with talent and the culture that is St. Louis, and being able to uplift, connect, and drive us forward.
I think there's no question that RAC is needed more than ever. The climate now, I think, is going to be challenging for artists and arts organizations. And RAC has a track record of making sure that the arts can thrive in our community in a way that the National Endowment for the Arts or the federal government isn't really thinking about St. Louis every day the way that RAC is.
I feel like the arts give us that creative base through which a lot of wonderful things can happen and are happening and will continue to happen in our region. There would be a lot of arts organizations that were not able to live out their missions if RAC did not exist.
Without RAC, the St. Louis arts scene, in my opinion, would be pretty segmented. There's so much thriving art going on in St. Louis, and RAC has really built this beautiful, collaborative, cohesive space for all of us to work together, to brainstorm together, to understand what the needs are of the overall community. And that's so important so that we are all pushing towards the same end goal as opposed to competing with one another.
If RAC was not created 40 years ago, the art scene in St. Louis would be non-existent because the majors couldn't make it, the middle group would fall apart, and the little groups would never start. And that artistic part of St. Louis, that fabric, that DNA, what we really need, wouldn't be there.
I don't want to live in a world where I look around and there's no poetry, there's no murals like there are around St. Louis, there's no theater to go to, there's no free concerts in the park to go to in the summer. Who wants to live in that world?
I offer good love and insurance money.
We have done amazing things with the resources that we have, but if we had more resources, I think the impact could be felt even deeper and broader in the community.
RAC, through our grant making, really builds public trust in a tax system. And you can see where that money's going by getting out in the community and going to those different artistic endeavors, whether it's a concert, a play, an art gallery, going on a landmarks tour. You're going to see what RAC does.
An important part of the work that RAC will be doing in the future are cross-sector partnerships, and a sector that we're really interested in accelerating our work is with sports. I see more partnerships with the Sports Commission so that when they're bringing sporting events, not only are we ensuring that the environment is cool with public art, but after the game is over, these patrons, visitors, tourists want other fun things to do, and that's where the arts is coming in.
I think that our arts community in St. Louis has grown substantially over the last 10 years, and RAC really has had a huge role in that and in bringing the visibility of art in St. Louis to other places. I think it still has a long way to go, and I think that RAC will continue to be integral in that process of marking St. Louis as an arts destination.
If there's anything I've learned about this organization, the best people make the best decisions, and we've had that, and we've had great leadership. Because without leadership, nothing happens either.
RAC is really sitting in a place to do things that haven't been done before and to put St. Louis on the map culturally in relationship to arts in a way that's never been done before.
As we celebrate this 40th anniversary and start to look towards the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years, we really want to focus on ensuring that St. Louis as a region can experience more joy and prosperity as a top arts and culture destination. We know that that'll be good for the people that live here and the people that visit. And so through our work and focus on investing in artists and arts organization, amplifying the work that they do and convening people around the arts, that we can achieve that. What if we double down on our funding and our support for the arts? Imagine how vibrant and amazing, innovative, and fun St. Louis would be.